Fellas, how we doing? Welcome back to another episode of Rise Up, the podcast. Guys, how we doing? How was your weekends?
Very relaxed for me. Tame.
Is that unusual?
It's getting more usual, and I kind of like it. Beast has been a part of my evolution.
Guys, he's evolving right before our eyes, and I got to tell you, it's a thrill.
Danny, you know why Greg likes this? Because I know he wants me to join him at the beach in the summer and just like be tame and not scare the kids. And I think we're getting close. We're getting close.
I got to tell you, Scotty, there's nothing like – I was at the beach this weekend. I was at Long Beach, and my wife and I were sitting there. And you know when you're wearing your shades on the beach, you could see people looking at you. They can't tell you're looking at them.
Yeah.
Just there with my kids, just being a dad and existing in life. And then looking over and seeing the 20-somethings with their Long Island iced teas just sitting there. Like, oh, dude, guy thinks he's so big.
Listen. So
I'm sitting there in my flamingo shorts with my 10-month-old just being a dad, but I'm not allowed to do that. So it's really big.
So Long Beach is definitely not like where Sibes hangs out. Like Montauk's, they're not staring you up and down. They're actually caring more about what's in your wallet there. But in Long Beach, they actually care like, yo, that guy's yoked. Now you're a predator. You're a new predator in a townie. There's a lot of townies there. So
yeah, man. I'm sitting there with my wedding ring on, my wife and my kids in my hands. I'm like, hey, nobody wants your women, okay? We're still here trying to exist. Relax.
Yeah, so
it was a relaxing weekend, Sibes.
Yeah. Nice. I love to hear it. I was at the beach this weekend too. I was actually up in Falmouth and Cape Cod, did the Falmouth road race with the fam. I still had the competitive juices flowing in me. I beat all the rest of my family members, so that was a nice little moral victory I had. I couldn't let them beat me. I got my cousin training for the New York Marathon and my girlfriend training for the New York Marathon. I was like, I'm going into this no training. I'm still not letting them win. I'm feeling it today, though. I'll tell you that, but I couldn't let them win yesterday.
You rub a little CBD oil on that thing.
Besides, I just watched, like I said, I had a pretty tame weekend, so I watched the Meet the Parents Marathon. So that kind of gives me that little vibe of you competing with the family. It's just a game,
well,
Scotty's
going to be meeting his girlfriend's parents soon.
It's just a game, Sibes.
Oh, yeah. Couldn't let them win, but it was a good weekend. I'm back here now in New York City, back to the grind, back to seeing you guys. So it's another week. It's another great week. And look at what you guys are all wearing. You know, Scotty, you got that nice hoodie on. Greg, you got that nice shirt on. I got a new bucket on.
I'm pissed because I had a Roback hat, the one you're wearing. Love that thing. But we both signed on. I'm like, oh, man, Sibes looks too good in this hat.
Did Sibes win again?
Yeah. Sibes was 5-0 this week.
Give him the hat.
Actually, he was 6-0. He won all of his games, 4-0.
He earned that.
Then he beat his family in a race. And he cost Noah like $300 because Noah keeps trying to fade him every weekend. So, kid's having himself
He earned the hat.
Yeah, we're all looking fresh in our new Roback gear. Shout out to Roback. I'll tell you what, I've been, a Lululemon guy for probably the past, 6-7 years, and this is the first time I've gotten any Roback gear, and the material is so great. I got the hoodie, got the golf shirts, going to be wearing it to the office at work. I'm pumped to flex those on my coworkers. The stuff is sweet. I love it.
Dude, it's thin. It's thin and it's stretchy.
Listen, I got a couple like short sleeve polos for the beach. I'm going to the beach this week. I'm going to Ocean City, and I'm gonna definitely stand out. But this is one of the only shirts I own with sleeves. Greg could vouch for that. I usually cut everything off. So this is obviously I love it. 3XL. I'm comfortable. We're good.
Yeah, reaches both shoulders. Good for you, man.
Absolutely.
It's a very nice craft bag for sure.
And if you guys want to look as good as us right now, make sure you go to roback.com. Use our promo code RISEUP20 for 20% off all of your Roback gear. You can be looking as good as Scotty does in that hoodie. You can be looking good as Greg does in that shirt. I don't know if you're going to be looking as good as me in this hat, but you can try.
It's going to be tight.
No one's beating you. So
yeah, it's going to be a tough one.
Well, fellas, let's get into this week recap. It was the last week of the regular season. I kind of saw what was going to happen as I went 4-0. We'll get into that later. But there was some great games to watch. And being home and, doing the road race this weekend, I was able to watch all 4 games, which I haven't been able to the past couple of weeks, so it was great to just kind of sit down and watch these games. First game, let's get into Chrome Redwoods. Redwoods showing fight, 13-12. They lost to the Chrome. What do we see? What do we think?
Greg?
Yeah, I mean, I thought this game went exactly the way I thought it would. Connor Farrell imposed his will, especially in the second half. Absolutely dominated faceoffs. I thought, they got an awesome game all around. They were more efficient on their shooting, and I thought they just played a tighter, more predictable game. And, down the stretch, the Redwoods actually, it was a good back and forth battle the whole way. I don't think either team played poorly, either team completely dominated. But once again, in this league, when your faceoff man is almost, he's winning 2/3 of the draws, and your goalie saving 54%. I mean, Scanoni's been awesome.
Solid,
this
dude.
season. Yeah, he had 13 saves. He was great. So I just think, this defense, we talked about the preview of this game and why I was picking the Chrome. They held Lyle to 3 points the week before. And I like the way this defense plays. And Scanoni, when he's seeing the ball, is as good as anyone.
Yeah.
And, Rob is in, old school Rob mode right now where he's being more aggressive because he's trying to take over a little bit. He had 5 points and he looked great. But I think the Chrome, they have a very obvious game plan when they go into these games. Like, there's no haywire. Like, you can tell Sudes has them on a direct, and it was very obvious what they were trying to do. So I was really impressed with them throughout the entire game. The Redwoods played very well, but if they played 3 more times, I'd be pretty confident picking the Chrome each time again.
Yeah, listen, I think Epple's the best defender on the Woods, and he'll neutralize the threat, right? The top threat on any team. But going after that right now, I don't know. Like I said, I like Logan Wisnowski had what, 7 points? 7 goals?
Yeah,
7
get out of day, man.
4 and 3, yeah, 4 and 3.
7 points. So, I mean, watching that kid come into his own right before they go into this playoff run, that's huge, dude. Because Nick Turn was already unfazed by the moment. I feel like Logan was getting his feet wet still trying to figure out his role in that offense a bit. And then obviously Malloy's always there. He's a steady pro. So that's a great sign for them going forward. I think that's Logan popping points off. Now Nick Turn doesn't have that pressure as much. He could kind of facilitate, feed, be a quarterback. Dude, they just look like he said, I think Greg said it best. Pseudo. There's 2 coaches in that league. Probably 3. I'd say Stags, Andy Towers, and obviously Pseudo are 3 guys I have the utmost respect for, and I definitely know the game plan is gonna be dialed in.
You talk about the defense. What is shocking to me, because I played with him in 2019, I couldn't believe how good John Sexton was. John Sexton on my wing was unbelievable. He was a transition threat, not just bombing twos, but he would toe drag you, bring it down, and dunk it. He was all over the place. This year, he's been really quiet. He hasn't shown up much. He has 9 ground balls in the whole season.
So, I mean,
how many games played does he have?
What do you say?
How many games played does he have? I feel like I haven't seen him in the roster every game.
He's had an injury bug.
He's played in 7 games.
His whole career, though, Greg, he's had a little bit of an injury bug in and out, right?
Yeah, and that's what I'm interested to understand. He has. I mean, he has 3 ground balls in 1 game, but that was the most he's had.
Yeah.
I feel like he was just a force for this team, and I'm interested to know what his deal is, because I feel like John Sexton is way better than the stats show. Yeah, and I just feel like he hasn't popped up much this season.
I have a theory on that, and that, obviously I don't want to get off topic, but on that polls, so Ratliff has was it Connors, right? So there's 2 polls there. Splitting runs. I know Scotty Rat, he's not going to want to split runs. I also know Hartzell and Sexton, 2 competitive guys, but I also know there's a single pole kind of system. I think Mike Earhart is single pole style, right? He's not getting reps taken from him up on the LSM too much, is he? Probably. So I think there's a rhythm there. I think there's a rhythm there on the wing and the ground balls, just like kind of face-offs and goalies, Greg. I think LSM is one of those it borders a lot of a niche position like us. It borders it like an S, like a short stick D midi. I just think the reps, if you get guys Hartzell's getting reps. Sexton's trying to get reps. It might be all good, but for rhythm-wise, I think that always is a big piece.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point. I mean, Hartzell coming in can make a dent, but I do, we had Brian Karalunas and Sexton splitting time when I was there in 2019, man, and both those guys.
I played with BK, yeah.
Were absolutely just savages.
Go Cats!
So that's just something I feel like they're missing.
Yeah, Nova was good.
I feel like they're missing out of the midfield from defense to offense a little bit on that team right now. Maybe they're from a transition standpoint. I know Hartsy's got a couple twos, but I feel like they rely very heavily on being a 6v6 offense.
They're attack based.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. From watching this game, the Redwoods are going to be toughed out in the playoffs. We'll get to those later, but I think the Redwoods shouldn't be discouraged with how they played. I think they still are cooking with a little bit of fire going into the playoffs. But let's move on to the next game of the weekend. We have Archers 16, Water Dogs 12. The final score was a 4-goal difference. Watching this game, it seemed a little bit closer. It was a little bit more back and forth than the final score indicates. Archers, we talked about it. We weren't picking against them anymore. They look good.
Yeah. I'm still upset because when we were doing the pick'ems, I had to find a way to try to catch up to you. So I went on a limb and went with the Water Dogs. But Jake Withers, I know he's been injured in and out this season, was unbelievable. I mean, 21 for 30. Was completely dominant. I think it started off the game 9 for 9. And it wasn't just him, it was that unit. Even when Justin Inacio would win a clamp, it was like 3 Water Dogs just like right on top of him. Doing what Water Dogs do. Outground balled them by 15. They played well. And I thought at certain points, Dylan Ward looked amazing in there in cage. But Gittleman, I would argue, this was probably his best game yet.
Yeah.
He had 14 saves. He was great.
Yeah, and I think we've been talking about Gitz a little bit. I think feeling that pressure from the young guy is good. I think having Dobson there, having a good game, but also knowing that it's money time. And this group, he knows he might be playing with his friends for the last ride. I mean, having Marcus, Manny, Tommy, that core group of guys that we talked about in the first episode, I think that's almost everyone's starting to feel that pressure. And their efficiency on offense, like you said, getting out face off like that. Their efficiency on offense is unreal. Like the way they put the ball in the net, they don't shoot poorly, dude. They shoot. They have the most accurate shooters in the game. So I feel
like as a whole, their offense is healthy right now.
Yeah,
for the first time, and because of the injuries, because of guys being banged up, because of Ament missing some time, I think you're seeing guys that are starting to they felt their rhythm early in the year. And now, because Ament's back, Tommy's playing like old school Tommy Schreiber.
Yep.
I feel like the whole offense is clicking, which could be very dangerous for people. I mean, if you win a game by 4 and you only won 30% of your faceoffs, it's pretty, like you said, it's pretty efficient. It's pretty awesome. And I think it seems to be that they're all getting used to each other now. Like even Connor Fields, right? Sometimes you can just tell Connor Fields gets the ball and he's like, I feel like everybody has the green light. And everybody trusts each other. So if Connor Fields feels like being Connor Fields for a couple possessions, they just let him do his thing. No one seems to go palms up, and it's great.
But I also think that's why the last game of the season, like we talked about guys resting and teams resting, some teams knew they were going to be in the playoffs. Getting those X Factor guys going into the playoffs, like the Connor Fields, getting in there, getting that little mojo. Logan Wisnauskas for the Chrome, getting him his little confidence before the playoffs. That is why you play those last games, your starters.
Do you think, it looked like Fields was taking a lot of those lefty attack reps, playing down low for most of the game instead of Manny. So, Fields was 5-0. I think he scored the first 3 goals of the game for the Archers. He went off. He was just rocking back and forth. No one could cover him. And then when they were sending the double, he was getting rid of it. He looked great. Do you think they put him down there because, like you said, last game of the season type of situation? Or do you think, he took that job right there and that's his spot now?
I don't think
it's very matchup based, though. Yeah. I think they're two completely different players. Will Manny makes you pay if you hesitate on your slide one step. He'll find it. The second he catches it, it's in the corner. Whereas, and he's streaky. Whereas, Connor Fields will create offense with the ball in his stick. So, if you have, feeling that matchup and deciding on who the right guy is, to have that luxury, to have two total studs that are completely different players at that lefty tack position based on who you're playing, man, that's incredible.
The thing about Will and being like a vet and like if he's a great pro, is he kind of, his role will change, right? But like if he comes out of the box, he did it in Boston a couple of years when we were in the MLL. He's gonna throw the ball right down. He's gonna hustle, pick down, and he's gonna play right in the offense. So it's a little different where Connor needs the ball in his stick. So like sometimes it dies a little bit because he's gonna like kind of butt dodge, kind of pump fake, BTB. Will's getting the ball in, out, cutting, like he's cutting, he's streaking. So like Greg said, it's a whole different dynamic. I think they need a different look because it kind of like for the playoffs, you need that. Like that could be a whole different changeup, dude.
Totally. I think it's a great point. And it was very great to see for the Archers offense, for them to throw him in there in that situation, for him to excel. And going forward, they're like, all right, we got this option. But yeah, I mean, that Archers team, we've said it from the beginning of the season. They are so dangerous. Their weapons, like we said, Schreiber's playing like Schreiber, playing like the best player in the world. Ahmet had 4 assists. He's dishing the rock. He's doing his job. He's not pressing too much. That fast break goal where he, steps in, pump fakes it, and throws it behind the back to Schreiber, who was playing down low on the break, was unbelievable. Great highlight reel goal. Just fun lacrosse to watch.
But on the other end,
and it's funny because the people that are laymen or the younger kids will watch that and be like, "Oh, fancy!" Like, "Oh, he went behind the back," but they don't realize that it was all strategy. Like he caught it, and then he took the step towards the middle of the field to make you think he's throwing the diagonal. Then he throws it behind the back. That's just savvy. That's just like
it was
really
like a triple fake.
Across.
He looked past, then he went shot. And as he was winding up the shot, he drew the defenseman back towards him and then chucked it behind his back.
And then Stribes hits a righty twister on the doorstep, and then everyone goes, "Wait a minute, what's he doing on attack?"
Dude,
nobody noticed what the hell he was doing down there.
I'll tell you right now, from playing with Tommy for 5 years in Ohio, a lot of guys had to get used to the way he passes because he passes as hard as he shoots. So like when he flicks his wrist, he could shoot it for the corner, and it's the same speed as if he skips that ball to Marcus. The only guy that chemistry started getting really good when we were in Ohio because Marcus started catching it off the C cut, man up. But that thing's humming, dude. Like and he catches it. So that's an adjustment. But also thinking about the Water Dogs. I mean, Hannah, he's coming along, dude. Like that kid. And
McCardle had 18. McCardle had 8 points.
8 points. But he's playing with that young kid. Is looking so much more comfortable, dude, every week with that.
Well, anybody who paid attention this spring, Hannah had a hell of a year.
Yeah.
So, if you were paying attention, this kid's not sneaking up on anybody. We all know how good this kid is. McCardle having 8 goals. I mean, it's one of those things where when you look at this game, you go, "Oh, they lost by 4. It wasn't that bad. It was a tight game." The second and third quarter, Archers outscored them 12-6. That was the defining factor of this game. And those middle quarters before and after the half is what really blew this game apart. The Water Dogs played good lacrosse in the first and fourth quarters.
Well, almost
they just couldn't hang.
Almost like we've been talking about with the whips, right? Is that chemistry mixed with that vet presence. That stuff matters now in those games that are close. Like the young teams you start seeing, they get there. That's why I like the Chrome and the Water Dogs, I think they're right there. I think they're honestly right there. But like I said, in the playoffs, when it matters, that ball is going to Tommy Schreiber. And he's going to make the right decision. It just is what it is. And same for the whips when it gets to that point, right?
100%.
Totally. And speaking of, let's talk about the whips. They finished their season 9-1, put the exclamation point on a great season. They beat the Cannons 11-9, and it's just more of the same for the Cannons. I feel like I'm a broken record. 2-goal loss to the best team in the league, but they finished the season 1-9, don't make the playoffs. They're grabbing the hefty bags, packing up their lockers, home for the rest of the summer. We'll start with the whips. They get a bye now. I think. What do you think going into the playoffs? More of the same. Why change anything?
Well, they got Stags got interviewed right after the game. I think Dana was on the field, and she was like, you kind of scared some people who bet on the whips early in the game. Like, how did you guys find your groove and pull this one out? And he almost like completely rolled his eyes on TV because he was just kind of like, this is who we are, man. Like, we fix things at halftime. We make adjustments, and that's exactly what they did. They come out, they double them up in the second half, put 6 in the third quarter, and face-off wise, they were solid. Goalie wise, they were solid.
Always,
they just imposed their will.
I mean, sneaky Burnlor only saved 40%, and they still only let up 9 goals.
So if that
talk about that every week, Sibes, right? Like every week we go, there's a weak spot somewhere statistically, right? Like, their defense let up more goals than usual, but their offense scored 18 goals. Or, Rambo didn't score any. Zed had 6 points, or Nardella got beat up on the faceoffs, but Burnlor saved 70%. Like, there's always one thing lagging, but there's so many other things to this team. And the depth. I feel like the depth is what makes this team better than everybody else.
It's the team. It's just they play the best team. Yeah. They play the best team ball in the league. So it's like one little like chink in the armor right now doesn't take down the whole boat. They patch that hole up quick. They say that's what it's going to be today. If Burnlor's not feeling it, we'll cover for him. Put a couple more G's in, scrap a little bit on the wings, and we'll cover for the goaltending deficit. It's like I said, Kyle's not going to be like that in the playoffs. That's his one game. Everyone's due for one, right? And
you know what? Even if he does have a game like that, I feel like it doesn't matter,
right?
But like, I thought that was so interesting because if you watch, PLL does a great job on social media. Is at halftime, the Cannons go up winning. They're winning 6-5. And Bones Kelly gets up and gives this like impassioned speech about how we have to finish strong. And it was almost like he was panicking when he was talking. And you're kind of sitting there going like, that Whips locker room's probably like, okay, what do we got to fix? It's all strategy, no rah-rah. It's just like, okay, this is what we need to do instead on picks. This is what we need to do instead when we're on offense. Okay. Whereas, you could maybe that Cannons team, like, and we can talk about Brody Merrill in a second, but, there's certain guy, maybe this is his last game. Maybe this, maybe the staff's not going to be back next year, so I feel like there was some panic there and you're up by 1 where that tells you the difference between a first and last place team, especially a team that is, a couple more years of this and we're talking straight up dynasty.
I don't think the Cannons are lacking effort, right? Because every game they're in it, right? It's just like these little moments in the game where there's lulls. It's like they're just costing them. The lulls, you can't have lulls like that. Like the Whips will have a lull, but like we said, they fix that thing real quick.
And I feel for Lyle, man. He's laying it all out there every single game. You can see how bad he wants to win, and it's just what is the answer? What do you guys think the answer is for the Cannons for next year?
Well, Greg, I'll start. Like, listen, they bring in a Salian, right? They brought him in. Yeah. They get some fresh faces in there, fresh middies. They're trying. I think they're almost trying guys out for next year a little bit.
Speaking of, I think he earned himself a job for next year. He's looked great since he's been in the lineup.
Yeah, he's a traditional north-south midi, right? And a big athlete. They don't have that on the midfield. But also, like I said, that was a tryout game. We said it last week. Like who's gonna have a job next year? Who's not? Cursed. We had his brother on last week. I thought that was a great time to put the kid in. And obviously, they could have got in the playoffs, but I think it was very slim. So I think you played a rookie, and you're like, let's see what he's got for next year. If we're gonna
great,
played great. He had 13 saves. He had a 6 stuff on his brother on the doorstep.
Yeah,
right. So I mean, listen,
something to talk about at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I just think Boston's got holes to fill in the offseason.
You called him Boston.
I call him Boston. Yeah, I know. Cannon.
Yeah. Well, I think what we're going to see prediction-wise, we're going to see a coaching change. I think sometimes, and it's not a knock on Quirk, it's just sometimes look at the Atlas. Maybe you just need to change a different person in the locker room, a different view on how to draft, etc. I think the defense, I think they do need an injection of youth on the defensive end from the LSM standpoint. Get a couple draft picks. What hurts is they don't get the first pick after this. That hurts. But like you said, this team's in it every week. I think obviously the glaring thing is they got to get a face off.
Yeah, 100%.
I love Bones, but we've had enough of an audition at this point.
Yep.
They need somebody to come in and say, look, this is the direction we want to go with the face-off unit. I think they need a face-off man and they need a killer wing.
Well,
that's what they need.
Well, they have Goodrich, right? And the kid's, I think he's still one of the best in the world at what he does. So, like I said, they have a pillar there with a little youth, right? They have a pillar in attack. I think their attack's great. Honestly, I think
this is a good team. This is a good team. Absolutely.
Team. Couple
I just think maybe it's just a different voice in the locker room is what's going to probably happen.
So you guys know better than me. And just, I know we're talking hypotheticals, predictions, but when there is a coaching change in the league, since there's no ownership, since there's no general managers, who initiates that? Does it come down from the league office?
What happens is there's a review at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And the players voice opinions, and then the league looks at it. But I also think the league looks at it from a revenue standpoint and says, all right, look, we got the best player in the world who's not going to be playing in the playoffs. And they lost, 9 games in a row. We have to figure something else out here. So I think the Cannons, after 2 seasons of this particularly, might take a look at that, Yeah,
I think, listen, I'm still on the team of Paulie Raves is going to play for the Cannons next year. So.
Okay. So you don't believe that. Anyway, so I think there's no way Paul's opening himself up to that bullshit.
Maybe he booked him for the coaching job. What do we think?
I'll tell you what, that would be a hell of a decision when there's about 60 24-year-old seniors coming into the draft next year because of that 2020 blanket waiver the NCAA gave them. I mean, there is going to be some unbelievable talent at Placid next year. Because there is not going to be enough room for these guys. But you see this changing of the guard, right? I want to talk about Brody Merrill for a second, just because there's a chance this might be his last game, unless he's a dick and he comes back next year just to break my ground ball record. So Brody was playing like it was his last game. I haven't seen Brody play like that since like his Nationals days when he was playing in the MLL. When I watched Brody Merrill on film the first time, it was at Penn State my sophomore year, and we're like, okay, thank God, Kyle Sweeney graduated. And Lars Tiffany goes, oh, no, did you see this asshole? We watched the film. He's not sliding, just playing safety. Just guy catches the ball, and he just decides to go across the field and run a dude straight into the sideline. Then he comes back, and he decides to slide to the next guy, puts the ball on the ground. He was a menace.
Greg, we played a backer zone. My rookie season, Huntley drafted me. He goes, you're starting. I'm like, Brody Merrill, oh, my God. We literally played a zone and let Brody just play between the midfield line and the restraining line and just harass.
It's a box and one psychopath.
That's it.
And that's what you play.
That's it.
And Brody was playing like that. You saw, especially in the second half. He came out at the halftime and was like, F this. And he was just running all over the place. Yeah. It was unbelievable to watch. I was like, holy shit. I'm like really sad that this might be the last time we get to see Brody Merrill play. But if it is, man, that guy better get one hell of an ovation.
Oh, he's the best.
He's
the best
the
teammate
greatest
I've ever played with.
LSM. And I'm going to argue the best defender since Petro.
Yeah.
And the one clip that I couldn't help but chuckle was that over-the-head takeaway he had on Keegan Khan. Keegan Khan played for him at the Hill Academy.
Yeah.
He played for him at the Hill Academy. And he's going over the head, taking his cookies. And I'm sure they had a chuckle about it, but I couldn't help but laugh. That was awesome. Awesome moment.
That's what we call a full circle moment in your career.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
Absolutely. I mean, definitely hats off. Congrats to Brody Merrill. I think, right, it was his 200th career game. He's an Iron Man. I think 18 seasons, 17 seasons, something like that. And so impressive to have that longevity, that love for the game to keep going. And I mean, like I said, like we all said, he's a true professional in every sense of the word. And congrats to him and a wonderful career he's had.
Yeah.
Let's transition to the last game of the weekend. Big time Barnburner, Atlas 10, Chaos 9. Theme of the weekend was, close back and forth games. Favorites coming out on top. This was more of the same.
Yeah, I just think, like I said, I think I pick with my heart on those pick'ems, but I really want to see what the chaos could do, and I believe in Blaze. Like Blaze is my boy, and I think he's still the best, right? He's kind of like in that Lyle situation where he's doing his part. But like I said, that game's close. They're playing with probably the best offense in the league. Honestly, they're playing against the best offense in the league. It was 10-9.
10-9.
10-9. I mean, to hold them to 10 is like, there's a couple moral victories in your career. That's a good one with that offense. But also just knowing, like, I did it with the Redwoods. Like, I picked against my heart there, too. Like, I just can't. I have friends, right? That's what I did. But I want to see the chaos. I think they have no problem going into this playoff, like, 0-0.
I'm going to keep you honest, though. Stat guy right now. Blaze only saved 40% in this game.
Indoor facility.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Kincannon was 55% in the cage. I thought Kincannon played absolutely incredible.
Yep.
Point blank, doing things that he does. I felt very strongly going into this game that Trevor Baptiste was 60% or better and the Atlas won this game, that he solidifies himself as the MVP. The only way I see him not getting MVP now is if the Atlas get like smoked in the first round of the playoffs and he has a terrible day. So, I mean, he put Adler in a casket. It was like 70%. And I actually think if you're the Chaos going in the playoffs, you need to take a very hard look at CJ Costabile. If he's not your main face-off guy, at least getting half those reps, man.
Right.
CJ came in, actually won a couple of face-offs going pure rake against Trevor. And that's what they need. This team needs the ball on the ground for 3-on-3 face-offs. And if you put the ball on the ground like that, this face-off unit can come out on top.
So, but yeah, I have a question for you, like with the MVP stuff. With a goalie winning it last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see the powers that be. I believe it should be the best player should get MVP. I just don't know if the league, for what we're trying to do, the growth-wise and the fans and everything, I don't know if we're going to go goalie to face-off guy.
Okay, that's an interesting take, and I would agree with you. But you got to look at the recipe again, right? For my 2015 year, my numbers were so out of control, right? At one point in the season, I was like 83% at the All-Star.
Greg. I remember.
Okay. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just saying that the numbers have to be so ridiculous, like things you've never seen before. And then on top of it, nobody can differentiate themselves offensively. If the Cannons were like fourth place, I would say Lyle's going to get it because you're right. Lyle, but I think the powers that be don't have a problem with Trevor. Like, my season was the perfect recipe for a face-off guy to make it, and I wasn't even a unanimous decision. I think for Trevor, this is lining up very well for him because, one, the Atlas are having a tremendous season. They just locked in second place.
Yeah.
It's not even close with any other face-off guy in the league. I think Nardella is second in the league, and in 2 games, Trevor's 70% against him. Right. So it's an absolute bloodbath out there. But also, if you're the powers that be, and this is our problem, right? When I got on my soapbox about Matty Palin, I was like, you have young, charismatic face-off guys coming in the league that can't break into a lineup because of the way the face-offs are being officiated. Trevor's your guy.
Yeah.
Charismatic. Everybody loves Trevor. That's the difference between me and Trevor. Not everybody like Greg. But everybody loves Trevor, and I think he's great for the league. And in the game he sat out, they lost. Like, I think all the recipes are there.
Yeah.
If you told me there was one offensive guy who really set himself apart in the playoffs, then I would say you're right.
So,
but I just –
yeah, so I don't think Nick – I think Nick turns MVP caliber. I don't think –
there's plenty of guys in the discussion.
I'm saying I don't think a rookie – he's going to get Rookie of the Year. He's not going to get MVP. What's up, Danny?
I think there's 2 scenarios where Trev gets it. I think Atlas winning the championship, Whipsnakes winning the championship against the Atlas, because you really can't pick one guy on the Whipsnakes who really set themselves apart. But I think if those 2 things don't happen, it will go to someone else. Like I would expect does with the Tewaaraton, how it is with the Heisman. You know, who goes the furthest, who can win the championship. It's in that kind of same vein.
So who do we have right now? We have definitely. I think Willie's cooled off a little bit.
Let's go into that. We have, you know,
that's another good point because we did win the champion. Like we made it to the finals, we made it to the championship, and that's when I got voted that week as MVP. Yeah. So they do have. I think if Trevor makes it to that game against the Whipsnakes, they're in. He gets it. But
so yeah, we just wrapped up our weekly recap, and now, you know, seamless segue right into
that was our best segue yet, boys. Love
unbelievable. That. Unbelievable. Great. You know, Scotty, you're on point today, Scotty. You had your Wheaties this morning or something. But so let's look at our picks for MVP from the All-Star break. Scotty, you had Jeff Teat. Greg had Will Manny, and I also had Will Manny. We just said Will Manny's cooled off a little bit. Teat,
still
there.
He makes it run.
But I feel like other people have caught up and got above him. So let's see. So let's repick him. If you were to repick your MVP, give the award out tomorrow, not counting playoffs, who do you guys each have? Scotty, who do you have?
I got Trevor. I actually have Barnburner as my 2.
Yeah. That would
so
be
I think they do have an MVP candidate because he's been just solid the whole season. And I think 3 is Nick Turn for me. And that's my top 3 right now.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be Kieran McArdle who has more points than Nick Turn?
Dude, watch.
Kieran McArdle gets no love for the fact that he's.
I love Kieran. And I played with Kieran. I love Kieran, dude. I know how good he is.
Yeah, it has nothing to do. We love all these guys.
For me personally, it's got to be watching the Chrome do what they're doing after the year they had last year.
So Nick Turn is literally more valuable to the Chrome than McArdle is to the Water Dogs. I can see that. I can see that.
And why I say that is because I still think that's built that Water Dogs team is still it's still built with a little too many chefs in the kitchen. Meaning Courier's the guy, but Sowers is also a guy. Brian Brown's still.
Hey, he's a guy.
He's a guy. So, I mean, yeah, Kieran's doing his thing quietly, and I think the other guys are taking the attention off of him. But guys like Trevor, everyone knows Trevor's coming in. Everyone knows who Trevor is. Trevor's still doing his job, right? The target's on his back. The target wasn't on Kieran's back coming into this season, right? Nick Turn also had a rookie with zero expectation, and the kid's coming in and putting his team on his back. And I think I think that kid is the reason they're in the position they're in.
Yeah, I think another thing that plays in Trevor's favor is he's winning 70% of his faceoffs. Excuse me. The Atlas have 6 wins this year, and their score differential is 9 goals. So he's playing at a 70% clip. Without him, how many of those 1-goal wins
are they winning?
Do they win, right? And that's where I go to trying to be objective, where I go to the how valuable are you situation. I don't think the face-off position is any more valuable. I mean, look at the Archers with it, they're not winning many face-offs and they're where they're at. So I just think you can't, like I said, unless Trevor gets absolutely pumped in the first round and the Atlas go home, I don't see how he doesn't win this thing, man.
Yeah, I agree.
So everything you guys said, I agree with. I think I gave you kind of my scenarios where I think Trev wins it, but I said this last week, and you guys just touched on it. Kieran McArdle, he's my dark horse. I'm going with him. You know me, sucker for the lefty attack, but I think he's set himself apart from the rest of that crew that you said. Obviously they have Courier, obviously they have Sowers, but he's been so consistent. They haven't been able to stop him. Yeah, maybe they say, oh, this week we rather stop Sowers and we'll let McArdle get his. But no one's done that yet. And if he's not on that Water Dogs team, I don't know how much – I think he's really the driving force to that Water Dogs team. We talk about how good their middies are, but really he's putting the team on his back in some of these instances. And I think if the Water Dogs are to have a run in the playoffs –
They have to win. They have to win they have to make a little noise in the playoffs for him to get that award.
I agree. But I think, like we said, his statistical year shouldn't be taken lightly. I mean, he's been, I don't know what year this is for him in the pros, probably what, 8th, 9th?
Yep.
I mean, and he's probably having one of the best seasons of his career. I mean, he is really setting himself apart as one of the elite attackmen in this league.
That's one of the things that I really love about this league is, the rookie, Greg's talking about the young talent coming in, 100%. I'm more of a vet stickler. I'm like, you got to do it over time for me to respect what you do. So for me, it's like watching Will Manny have a resurgence, watching Kieran have a resurgence, watching Kincannon bounce back from injury. I love watching vets because I was a vet probably, but I love watching those guys have success because it's a mental toughness thing. And it's a these young guys are coming in as vet. Like, they're coming. And Greg knows, like, these young guys are coming in and the draft's stocked. So I just think the resurgence piece for me has been very enjoyable to watch this year in the league.
I mean, McCardle's one of the easiest people to root for. The last thing I'm going to say is when you look at optics of a league, who do you think people would be most pissed about not winning the MVP?
I think Trevor is the perfect candidate for the award. Because how he's going to interact, like after they say, Trevor, back to you as MVP, they give him the little interview. It's going to be a killer interview. It's just little things like optics.
I think the kiddies on like Instagram and stuff will be like, "What about Lyle?" because they haven't watched a single PLL game this year. But I think if it's not Lyle, then most people would be pretty pissed that it wasn't Trevor. Yeah, they'd be like, "I don't get it."
Kieran's like Tommy, and it's crazy because you guys know me. I'm a Long Island guy, and I'm pretty loud and obnoxious. So hearing Tommy and Kieran, two Long Island guys, those are the two most humble, quiet. They just come to work, do their job, and then they're done. So like Kieran's not a guy that even wants you to talk to him. I've literally tried to talk to him. He doesn't even want to talk.
No. I'll tell you what though, he'll knock your ass out. Like in the indoor league.
Oh, he'll fight.
Dude, Kieran McCardle and Brody Merrow are two of the sneakiest fighters you've ever seen, dude.
Is Brody even sneaky?
No, but I'm just saying, like, if you met them in person, you know what I mean? Like, you meet Jeff Snyder in person, you're like, oh, there's something wrong with this guy. Like, but if you meet Brody or Kieran, you're like, oh, these are nice, normal, quiet guys. And Brody will grip you up and just back up and just keep smoking you
Dad
for like 4 minutes straight.
But yeah, guys, I think for the MVP predictions, we'll see how these pan out. I'm excited to see. I'm excited for the playoffs to kick off. I'm excited to crown a new champion. Excited to see all the awards pan out. But next on this show, we have a former MVP coming on. 2021 MVP of the PLL, Blaze Riorden. We're super excited to have him on the podcast. Welcome on, Blaze.
Hell yeah, Blazer.
Welcome to the podcast, Blaze Riorden. I know Scotty's been dying to get you on. We had a little technical difficulties last time. You were fly fishing and teaching lax in the woods, but we're happy to have you on finally.
Thanks for coming on Showtime.
Go.
This is awesome. Sibes, you might want to preface a little bit more than bringing kids into the woods and fishing with them. Blaze,
that's the only description I got. That's the only thing I could hear through the Wi-Fi last time. It was like, oh yeah, we're running a fly fishing and lacrosse camp. Me and the Powell Bros.
It's a power thing too. I love it.
It's a lost art, teaching them, the port and starboard, the boats, the bows, the knots, teaching them life skills that are kind of a lost art while using lacrosse as an avenue to bring everyone together. That's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Blazer, going off that, I was telling these guys how excited I am to have you on. Like, our friendship's very important to me, one of my best friends, but it's because of that, right? It's because of that, like, blue collar upbringing, where you're from, what you've been through, and like what you're doing in your professional career right now is incredible. It's been fun to watch for me. I keep picking your goddamn ass every week because I love you so much. But I have a feeling you're going to make me a rich man in the playoffs, so I'm excited to watch you go on a run here.
Loyalty is one of your best traits, Scott.
Thank you, buddy boy.
Blaze, tell us a little bit more about that because this is similar territory from your championship run. So Like, what are you guys thinking right now going into the playoffs? So you're sitting here going, people probably count us out again, even though we still got them rings. So tell me what about that locker room?
Yeah, it's actually similar to our last 2 seasons, which resulted in playing in the championship game in the bubble. We were 0-4 and made a run and then lost to the Whipsnakes when Zeddy went off with 6 minutes left. We had control of the game, and then last year the same thing. So, I told the guys after the game, I said, with the Whipsnakes having a first-round bye, we're going to be the only team there that weekend that's climbed the peak of the mountain together. And not much has changed as far as our locker room and personnel. So having that experience needs to be a huge confidence boost. And, what people don't realize is that when you have, 18-man, 19-man rosters and 15 of the guys are playing in both lacrosse leagues, 1, it wears down your body, but 2, they're 2 totally different forms of the game. And, they expect guys like Josh Byrne and Dane to show up after playing box lacrosse for 9 months and to just pick up playing field lacrosse. And you have to build chemistry, and not having a week of training camp together and, starting together week 5, it's the long run for us. Everyone says it. You got to peak at the right time, and the way the league's designed with only one team not making it, regular season's important, but really what's important is just being in the top 7, which we squeezed out, and now it's time to put our heads down and roll.
Yeah, Blazer, when I was playing since college, I always had that one goalie in my class that I always focused on like a rival. Like I wanted to beat him heads up. Drew Adams was that guy for me when he was on the Lizards, when he was playing in the PLL. At Penn State. Do you have a guy in the league that you kind of look at? Is it Bernlaw or Kincannon that you look at and you kind of want to beat him heads up?
I think for me, Kyle was the same class as me, and I think he's one of those goalies, before the Premier Lacrosse League began, was kind of taking the reins over a little bit, winning championships. He's, multiple-time All-Star, and him getting into the league and winning back-to-back championships. Over the years, I've built a great relationship with him, but you always chase the guy in front. I don't think it matters actually who it is. I just think it's you chase the guy in front, and he's been that guy, and I think he's got to be the front runner this year for goalie of the year. It's just been stellar week in and week out. So the race continues, and it's great to have competitive juices while also being able to accomplish things to further the growth of the goalie position in this sport outside of the competing in the games.
Blaze, this is a funny question that I got for you. And it's a little, I know, Scotty and had a little bit more serious question, but when I watch the games, I feel like your team in particular takes a lot of pride for defensively, like getting in front of shots and blocking shots and eating those shots for you. And are there any times where you're just get the fuck out of my way, let me see the ball, or do you encourage, guys really soaking them for you?
Yeah, it's a fine line of being a captain on the team, preaching that, we're going balls to the wall, and that, that's a symbol of, leaving it all on the field. Is you're willing to take, the rubber ball going 100 miles per hour to the middle of your back. That to me shows that you're willing to do anything to win the game, which you can't take down. But yeah, as a goalie, there's times, I'll tell Mark, if I get screened and a goal will go in, I'll be like, yo, you got to get the fuck out of the way, or you got to block the ball, because you're trying to do my job, and I'm not trying to do your job. So when it affects me, but honestly, we have, it hasn't really been a huge issue this year. I think for me, where our identity comes in is I thought we started to get a little soft. I think Rowlett's one of the fiercest defensemen in the league. He's constantly putting bodies on the ground. Jared Newman's a physical specimen that I expect to put some bodies on the ground. So I think you saw this last week against the Atlas. There's a couple, the Canadian scuffles where you're giving the guy the old dirty glove to the face and, making sure we're putting guys on the ground. So just building off of that identity going into playoffs is going to be huge. And hopefully Glissini could take a couple off his back for me, lighten the load.
That guy's got a death wish, dude. I've never seen anybody excited to be hurt like that guy.
He's the smartest. He's the most intelligent guy on our team by far. But yet, he's
Does the most reckless,
I guess, right? It's
No, that's true, man. You sit
like
down.
a Yale graduate, right? It's like, come on.
Yale graduate.
Dude, I'll tell you what, man. Anytime I'm around Mark Lassini, I try to sit down and talk with him a little bit. That guy's fantastic.
I try not to because I feel like a dumbass.
He's got a sense of humor, and he has these lines that he comes up with, and like, you know, in my past success, he's congratulated me, but you know, well deserved, brother, like, you know, love you and all this stuff, and then he'll send me something after it. And his last one was, when you look around and you see 5 pigeons, that doesn't make you the one eagle, that makes you the 6th pigeon. That's all he sent me. And I was like mind blown.
God,
staring at
I
him.
hope he writes a book one day.
He's a beautiful mind.
I'm like, what in the world? This guy was born a goalie.
I'll tell you, we're not that weird, man. I think that's a misconception. We're not that weird.
I don't know, man. Listen, according to Beast on Twitter, he referred to us goalies as, I think, psychopaths.
Psychopaths.
Who's the first person you'd want to have? Who's the first person you'd want to have a beer with after the game, though? A goalie.
You guys are all crazy. The goalies and the faceoff guys are cut from the same cloth.
Look, there's a very distinct difference between the two of us, okay? We are insanely weird. We play with the wrong side of the stick. We obsess over shit that no coach wants to deal with a faceoff guy. Not a single coach on earth. Goalies are relatively normal people, except they pick the one thing that hurts when you're doing it right. Like, they jump in front of the lacrosse balls with just a chest protector on. That's psychopathic, masochistic behavior. Okay?
Whatever. We'll get in this argument another day, but I disagree.
So, Blaze, you actually had a good point earlier.
Most rewarding, though.
Yeah.
Also the most rewarding, for sure.
Well, Blaze, you were talking earlier about, and you echoed what we had said for a couple weeks on the show, where it seemed like your offense was back. They had played indoor, and we were like, just give them a little bit of time. They're going to start, pumping that ball around and start having fun again. And we're seeing glimpses of it. But there's another hurdle too for you guys. I feel like half your offense also played sixes. So I feel like you played indoor, then went to sixes. Now you're in the middle, and you played sixes in the middle of the PLL season. Like, what's that extra hurdle like for you guys? It's crazy. And you yourself, you play a completely different position in indoor and then have to jump in cage.
Yeah, let's just say between winning the championship last year and showing up for the first day of training camp for the NLL, I had 28 days, and 5 of them were spent in Miami celebrating the championship. So that felt like another game week on its own. So we'll call it 23 days of off season, and then this last NLL season going into the PLL season, I had 14 days. So you're not talking a ton of time off in the last 12 months, and mentally, I don't think it's as much the game that brings the exhaustion. It's being a professional lacrosse player and the fact that you're on the road, 30 weeks out of the year, and you're traveling to a new destination, and it's hard to get in a routine. But it's what we love, and I think that's what I tried to remind the guys is it wasn't too long ago we were all trapped in our homes during a global pandemic where, all you wanted to do is get out and fly 1 million miles per hour around. And, now we're in that lane, and now you're looking back saying, I wish, we could slow down. Well, it doesn't work like that. And I think being able to see the finish line for this group is going to be the biggest thing for us. Not using an excuse, 2 and 8's not what we're going for, but to be able to see the finish line and know if we put 3 good games together that we can be defending our crown, I think is going to be the spark that we need to, put together a good 48 minutes against the Chrome in 2 weeks.
Yeah, Blazer, similar experience when I was in college. Obviously, when I was at Notre Dame, we went like 6-6. We were the last team picked in, then we made a run. I remember talking in that locker room when we got selected, because we didn't think we were. We were like, dude, it's a whole different season. Whatever happened in the past, it's done. Like, it's done. Yeah, we got better, worse, whatever it is. But now this is our time. This could be our last time together as a group. And I know in college that's a little different than the pros, but even for your team's been together for a couple of years. Obviously, you know how the transactions work. Keeping that core group and getting another one, that's enough motivation. I feel like I'm always a chaos fan. I watched you guys. I know how you Coach Towers for me is, I wish I played for him. You know, I mean, he's my kind of guy. What is his message kind of going into this 2 weeks before the playoffs?
Yeah, what's incredible in life, and I think it's a lot of things, and, you know, when you get to the pinnacle of anything that you do, and, you know, we're at the pinnacle of our profession of playing lacrosse, you set such high standards for yourself, and, you know, believe it or not, at the beginning of our year, we wrote down our goals, and our goal wasn't to go 10-0 in the regular season. Our first goal on that list as a team was to secure a playoff spot. So we essentially accomplished our goal. Was it the prettiest way of accomplishing it? No, but we accomplished it, right? And I think looking at everything in a positive way like that, and knowing that even at what we consider our worst, which is, you know, winning 2 out of 10 games, like when we feel like, fuck, man, there ain't a lot of light at the end of this tunnel right now, like we can't put one together, we're still accomplishing our goals, man. That's powerful in its own sense. And you know, it's a terminology that's used a lot, but you can't kill what's already dead, man. Like, we got nothing to lose. We've been on the losing side, you know, all year. And, you know, when you get your ass kicked, which we've lost to every single team in this league besides the Cannons this year. We've lost to every single team in the league besides the Cannons. Having that chip on your shoulder going into these games, man, it's one weekend, you know, and I think that little extra fire under your ass helps you forget about everything going on outside your world, guys working, guys, you know, family issues, whatever may be going on. I think, you know, that state of revenge almost. Yeah. Like, these guys fucking kicked our ass. Now it's time for us to kick their ass, and, you know, even the playing table a little bit. It's what our identity is, and that's what we call swagger and arrogance. Yeah, swagger and arrogance.
I love that.
About to put my lid on right now, Blaze.
Yeah, you got it jacked up, bro.
What a positive way to look at it. And I think you've, Blaze, been kind of a constant on this team from the inception. And since, you know, the inception, there's been Towers kind of molded it in a way that's really, you know, box NLL centric. Do you guys feel that, you know, that's your identity, that people are starting to figure it out, or you guys just haven't hit your stride yet? Or tell me about kind of the way this team's been kind of put together and your guys' you know, style of play versus other teams in the league.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because we're stylistically, like, where our success has came from has changed almost from year one to where we're at now. The first year, you think about it, we were considered the bomb squad, right? Like, yeah. Jared Newman has 7 2-point goals. Like, our LSMs all have 3 2-pointers. We're scoring 85% of our goals in transition, and they're not even by offensive players. You know what I mean? And then year 2 comes around, and every coach is saying, don't let them push transition, right? So, like, those numbers drop drastically. But now we're scoring goals in fashions where, you know, we're faking the ball behind the back and guys are looking, you know, trying to find their jock strap, and we're scoring, and Towers is already celebrating. Like, we get the swagger to our game, like the Canadian flair. And then you add in the correct pieces to those puzzles, which, you know, for Coach Towers and what we like to run is, you know, everyone's Canadian on our offense besides Mac O'Keefe, and he's a box guy. He's the all-time leading scorer in college lacrosse history. So if there's one American to plug in with those guys, but I think where we build confidence is the fact that we know if we're clicking, that we have such a unique skill set that even if the defense is playing at the top of their game, it's almost impossible to defend when you think you're covering someone, but their stick's open, you know, a smidget by their ear, and the ball's getting whipped in. And, you know, to us, we have to put those pieces together. And if we do that, it doesn't matter who's standing across from us. We're confident that we're gonna win the game.
Blaze, so I was saying, you know, we talked about, you talked about you guys hit your goal, right? You made the playoffs. Now all bets are off. You know, I'm sure you guys are taking it one step at a time. First step is the Chrome. They had a total revamp in how they've kind of been viewed in this league. They had a great season. What's the biggest key for you guys to be successful in this game against the Chrome?
I'll start off first. What impresses me about them is the fact that I think, not from like a personal standpoint, like I don't know what their locker room dynamic is, but from like the naked eye of watching them play, I would say they're probably one of the most they have the least ego out of anyone on the league. I feel like they start every possession with everyone touching the ball, and they dodge and they're not afraid to move the ball through X. And the whip snakes guys always say it, hitting singles. Like they hit singles very well, which I think has contributed a lot to their success. I think for us, I think it starts at the face-off X with ads. Like, I think he'd be the first one to tell you that he got his ass kicked by Farrell our first matchup. And when the field's tilted like that, it's one team's running a marathon uphill and the other's running it downhill. It makes, for a long day. And so I think that's our first step. I think the second step, honestly, is, they've had a couple one-goal games and some comebacks and stuff, but they have a lot of young guys on that team. A lot of guys that are going to be playing in their first PLL game. I think the confidence of already being there and, seeing every situation that possibly can go on, I think, I think that's going to allow us to kind of stay steady for 48 minutes where, to them, it could affect them if they're not clicking, right away. Who are they going to look to? The guy running their offense is a rookie, Brendan Nickturn. All eyes are going to be on him. That's a tough situation to be in. Defensively, JT Giles Harris covers the number one guys. This is his first time in the league. He hasn't gotten beat that much this year. What happens if we get to him early? Kind of finding those subtleties throughout the game and capitalizing on it and using our veteran leadership and our demeanor, and then twisting that with the swagger and arrogance, I think is going to be the key to this success. And, you can't take anything away from these guys. We're going to have to game plan and we're going to have to play our best ball to beat them. They've showed that they're having a good time. They are a totally revamped team. The scouting report's getting a little longer now that some of these rookies have played a full year, but, a lot of these names on the scouting report, midway through the season, there wasn't a lot on these guys. So doing our homework, getting our sticks dialed in, getting our bodies feeling right, and then, telling everyone, you don't believe in us, shove it up your ass like we did last year. So
I love that.
Blazer, going off that, just for you played for Pseudo also, right? Just,
right.
I mean, I know how much respect you have for him being an upstate guy also. He's a legend. I mean, he's going to prepare pretty well for that playoff game. Is that, do you feel like there's similarities there between that young team, that young Chrome team being led by him and kind of like those Rochester teams that we used to do battle in the MLL a little bit?
You see it a lot, man. Like like a couple staples are still there. Like you talk about a guy like Mike Manley, he's still cross-checking people after the play and getting in people's faces, right? Like Jordan McIntosh is still having a quiet, 3-goal performance. It's like, he's got these staples. He had Jordan Wolf, at X before, and now you have a little different dynamic in Nick Turn, but he's still running their offense. He's still controlling their field, and he's leading them to be the second, ranked regular season team. So, like, as far as those principles, I think very much so. As far as, what they're going to see from us, I think we're a little different than every other team in this league. I don't think we're as easy to prepare for. You can, talk about what we're going to do, but defending what we're going to do because of our skill sets of our players and, our ability to shoot the ball between our legs and around the world. And, you get a dust bunny in your eye and Josh Burns backdooring you, for a slam dunk. It's like, that's the stuff that the scouting report can't do for you. And that's where we need to, make our mark.
Yeah, Blaze, I wanted to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
As you had talked about, Max got beat up by Connor the last time, and I don't see any difference in either's game that's going to tell me that something different is going to happen this time around. But one of the things that was shocking to me when you guys played them, I thought that one of the biggest obvious moves would be to leave CJ Costa to be able to take more faceoffs against Connor Farrell, because CJ, one, has had a good season, especially at the faceoffs.
Dude, he looks great.
Fantastic. But Connor Farrell is a liability after he wins the faceoff. And I feel like the easiest way for you guys to generate wins and transition would be to just have CJ take the draws and then just take his cookies afterwards after you lock off. Do you think we're going to see a little bit more CJ up there this time?
That's a great question, Beast. And like, for as from a specialty position standpoint, and like, like you found a ton of success in your career. It's like, do you respect the coach for like being loyal to the guy, saying, "Oh, he's gotten beat up the first 4, but that's our fucking guy, and we're gonna roll him out, and he's gonna figure it out." Like, where's that line? You know what I mean? Because I remember you tweeting that the Archers did it the opposite way, where they started Hasek at the X, and then Nards found a rhythm, and they put Ignacio out there to, be a punching bag for Nards. And I think it's finding that rhythm. But I think where we were surprised, and what we're not going to let happen is we're not going to let Farrell win the clamp and catch the ball on his own stick. That's not something that we really expected him to do a lot, or thought ads would lose in a way that would allow that to happen. We're confident that if that ball's on the ground, we have 2 poles, scrapping it up, that that's a 50-50 ball for us. And then we expected the other 50% to kind of be ads controlling that clamp. And we know Farrell's got a good clamp, but just not letting him kind of, I want to call it like a reverse pivot where he just throws it up to himself. We want to make it a little more dirty. And after watching what CJ did against Baptiste, the couple faceoffs that he took, just being able to really, contest a guy that's, probably the MVP, front runner. I think that's going to give Coach, that in the back of his pocket to be ready to roll out. But Ads is our guy. We got 100% confidence in him. We're going to start with him, and he made a run for us that allowed us to win a championship. He got his ass kicked the first half of that championship game last year, and he came out and he bit down on his mouth guard, and he won some very crucial faceoffs that allowed us to win that championship. So we got all the confidence in the world, and we're ready to go out and, shock the world and, be the guys trolling everyone that's been trolling us all year. We don't turn our eye away from that. We don't turn our ear away from that. We fucking hear you. Barstool Jordy, fucking all you. Like, we hear you guys. Be prepared to be
Blaze
annoyed.
got me ready to put down some money.
Be prepared to be fucking annoyed. That's all I got to say.
I love that shit. Hey, listen, man. This was like, I was looking forward to this interview the whole season. You're my guy. You're one of my best friends. I know Andy is going to have you guys ready. And we always talk about his loyalty, even in the slow start, his confidence in you guys, and even his confidence in Max. I know Max is going to give you guys everything he fucking has, because I know that kid. So either way, I know you're going to do your job. You're the best in the world, but I'm rooting for you guys, and I'll be there with you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
I appreciate the time, fellas. And hey, if you ain't with us, kiss my ass.
Love it. Hey, Blaze, thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Hey, Barstool Jordy, you better keep your head up around Philadelphia when Blaze is You better when Blaze is out in Philly. But thanks so much, Blaze. We wish you luck in the rest of the season. Everybody, welcome back from a fantastic interview with Blaze Riorden. I'll tell you what, I've never met him before, but now, boy, do I want to meet him. What a beauty he is. And I'll tell you what, he made me a believer of that Chaos team.
Yeah, man, I never doubted.
Yeah.
What a character he is. But let's get into our mailbag segment of the week. This is honestly becoming one of my favorite segments. Make sure you guys listening, write in, tweet at us, write in on our Instagram comments, comment on the YouTube, however you're watching this. Write in and give us some suggestions for questions, and we'll read them out. We'll sift through, we'll pick them. This week we got 4 questions for us. The first one, and Greg, we'll start with you. What under-the-radar player was most impressive to you this season?
I don't think there is anybody more under the radar than Liam Burns. Liam Burns is a stalwart for that defense for the Water Dogs. And he's second in the league in caused turnovers. He anchors that Water Dogs defense. He plays his heart out every single time. I mean, he's one of the best defenders in the world, and he has been for a pretty long time. And I don't think people talk about him because he's quiet. He's not a loud guy. He doesn't, he's not an in-your-face type of person. He just goes out and does his job, and he's very well respected by other pros in the league. And that's a guy I think that just doesn't get nearly the amount of love that he deserves for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to go just coming off, being so close with Jack, watching what he went through last year. I think nobody was really expecting him to bounce back the way he did. And obviously, he's second in the league right now?
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, he's having a hell of a season. And like I said, he's a catalyst for him, and Trevor are carrying that team through these 1-goal games. So I got Jack.
I'm wrestling with my pick because I feel like who I have in my mind isn't under the radar, but because of all of the personalities in the league and the way he carries himself, he falls under the radar sometimes. And I'm going with Eric Law. I think he's not, obviously, everyone knows who Eric Law is if you're close to the game, watching the game. But I feel like he falls through the cracks when you're bringing up the big names on that Atlas team sometimes. And I think, he's just the definition of consistency. And he's a veteran presence on that Atlas offense who has a lot of young guys playing, showing Chris Gray the ropes, how to be a pro. For me, that's why I just think maybe under the radar is not the best way to put it, but I don't know, just unsung hero almost.
I would agree with you, Sibes. Unless you're a serious lacrosse fan, I don't think you value Law for as good as he is. Like you will hear Kark. Wow, that was a hell of a stutter, huh? You'll hear Kark talk about him throughout an entire game because Kark knows the game real well, and we'll notice Law,
right.
And we have been for a decade. But you're right. I don't think he gets as much love as he needs. I think especially because the PLL does a very good job of highlighting the guys and highlighting personalities and highlighting the people that the camera wants, kind of quote unquote loves. But sometimes what gets lost in that is how damn good of a player you are. And I agree with you.
Well, Lawsy's like the Kieran and the Tommy, like just a professional.
Yeah.
Just a professional, like does his job.
Just finishes, man. That's what he does. He just finishes.
Yep.
Next question we have is, and I hope it's all yes. Did you watch the USA U21 team in the World Games? I think it's a resounding yes from all of us, but let's touch upon those games a little bit. I mean, how fun were they to watch?
Yeah, I mean, it was great for me, just being a Team USA guy and watching the young pups come in, especially U21, because it was supposed to be U19, obviously, because of the pandemic. Having those kids a couple of years older with some college lacrosse experience made for some really good lacrosse. I actually spoke to Nick Myers today. He just got back and, just having a discussion with him about what he loved about this team. And he was just saying, the dorms over there were kind of no air conditioning. You had to walk everywhere. He's like, but it helped us become a little bit closer. And this team was, Brendan O'Neill gets a ton of credit because the kid is absolutely electric. But when you watch how they won their games, sometimes it was like Alex Stathakis would have a dominant face-off performance, or, O'Neill would put in 8 points, or their goalie would stand on his head. When they beat Canada the first time around, and this team went undefeated through the whole tournament, when they beat Canada the first time around, they did it with face-off dominance and goalie dominance. The second time around, Canada kind of had their number at the face-off stripe for a while, and their goaltending wasn't, as from a save percentage standpoint, up to par, but their offense showed up. Their offense won them that gold medal. So it was just a really complete team that you can tell Coach Myers and his staff did a great job of helping those guys mesh and stick together for years now. Kids have made this team for years now. So for them to finally get out there and win this thing was really cool to watch.
Yeah, I think obviously being a Notre Dame guy, watching Entenmann just go off, get a gold, right? He's definitely carrying the torch for the legacy of goaltending that we take pride in there.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a staple in the pro game. He's going to be probably a first teamer next year. It was just great to see that for me personally.
So a couple things. I mean, how timely was it that we had Connor Kirst on last week and his younger brother? I mean, both of them played. One was the captain, and the younger one was MVP of the tournament. I mean, I think he had 5 goals in that championship game. He is a stud.
He was a stud in the goal.
So I think he missed out on his freshman year because of COVID, and so last year he was a sophomore, but his first year playing. I mean, he took that Cornell team, so close to a championship ring. I mean, they were the only team that really gave Maryland, 12 rounds, and so fun watching him. And then another thing that I was like, oh, hello, was Owen Hiltz playing for Canada because he was out this year with injury for Syracuse. It's like, we forgot about this guy, and he's a straight-up baller. Yeah. So fun watching him play. So glad seeing he's healthy. But just, great for USA to kind of win another championship, especially after the Sixes. Canada kind of took it to him.
Yeah, like we talked about that confidence, right? Like we talked about that's going to be huge, right? Just having those games where you can beat them, it's up and down. I actually think that team's going to be together quite a while. I think that's a pretty good foreshadowing. Most of those guys, I think, have a good opportunity to make the men's national team. I think you're going to see some similar faces. So,
what do you guys think about the stick checks that who did it? England did it to. I'm not going to try to say the new name for the Iroquois national team. I won't pronounce it correctly.
Listen, the stick check's one of those things where it is a greasy thing. Like when we played it in MLL, I know when we did that to the face-off guys, it was such a bullshit. Huntley did it once to, I think, Greg. Yep. And it's a bullshit thing because if you don't get it, you're never going to hear the end of it. But if you do get it, it is a 3-minute unreleasable. And it is a game-changing penalty.
And they did it twice. They did it twice, back-to-back.
Yeah, I think, people always ask me about it from a face-off standpoint. And look, it's legal. It's legal to ask for a stick check. And Is it tough? Yeah, because in international play, the face-offs are grueling. And if you ask for, I got my stick checked in our first game against Canada in 2018 because we won 8 straight face-offs. We were winning in the fourth quarter. And I had just taken a shot after a 40-second lockup with Withers. With Jeff Snyder. And as I beat him, I'm running down the field, and as I'm shooting, I hear him screaming for a stick check. The Canada staff tosses Snyder a warp. So he grabs a warp, calls for a stick check, because he knows that if we retaliate, his stick is going to be this wide and illegal too. And it was one of the smartest things ever. And my stick looked like a figure 8. Coach Dino was like, is it legal? I'm like, absolutely not. That thing is a pretzel. Right. And my gold medal and I laugh about it all the time. We talk about it all the time, how funny that was. So it's legal. It's just, look, as a coach, you're sitting here going, I'm doing this because I'm desperate and sad. But it's legal. So it is what it is.
I mean, it gets to the point, like you were saying, when you're facing off and you're down there, your stick's getting mashed every single way. And at some point in the game, no face-off guy's stick is going to be legal. So
here's what I think. I think, and this will in the USA game in NCAA now, that's going to happen way less because it's stand-up only face-offs. You're spaced out. There's not really lockups anymore in our game. But I think that face-off guys should have whatever sticks they have. Should be brought to the referees before the game and checked. And those are the sticks you're allowed to use. And that's it. And then at halftime, both face-off guys come out and they get their stick checked before the first face-off. I think that's totally cool. I used to do it before every high school and college game, just to be sure.
But don't you think at some point the stick can be altered mid-game where just bending it and twisting it each way? I don't know. I see what you're saying, but there's ways around it, I feel like.
There are sides, but you can't make a stick go from completely legal to completely illegal with not directly after a long face-off.
Yeah.
Unless you do something pretty drastic to it. So, whatever. It is what it is.
Got it. And the next question for us is a little sentimental one. Scotty, we'll start with you. What do you miss the most about playing lacrosse?
I miss the locker room. I miss being in there, getting in there for practice Friday night. Everyone's catching up away from their family. girlfriends, friends, kids, and you can kind of just drop all your shit. You had a tough week, drop it at the door, and everyone's kind of focused on that next 48 hours. It's like one of the most unique things in our sport because we have to do other things sometimes, like job-wise. So when you get everyone focused and like on a common goal, it's like, dude, it's ultra focused. I just miss that like competitive focus for those like 48 hours straight. Everyone's like in, man. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think I train harder than I probably did when I played now because I don't have the outlet that Scotty's talking about anymore. I was just joking with a couple of the kids that I coach now. I was like, man, I wish I could find any excuse to wear eye black.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah, me too.
Being able to flip the switch, because I played with such raw emotion when I played lacrosse that I got to be someone completely different. I got to be a totally different version of myself. And the intensity of like my favorite moments were like when something hurts, you're bloody, fourth quarter, you absolutely have to win this face off. You're exhausted. Like that's the shit I miss the most. And honestly, the fans, like the electricity of, or just seeing like a kid who, wears your jersey and he just looks up to you and signing his signing an autograph afterwards. Those are the things I absolutely am going to miss.
I mean, you guys hit the nail right. I mean, I'm still not to brag about age, but I'm still close enough, I feel like, to college where I still, miss the shit out of college where, all you're doing is playing lacrosse and going to school. You don't, no other worries. I mean, what was better than that? And you took it for granted at times. And now we're all in the position where we look back at it and wow, like those were the times, you had 40 built in best friends and just having the time of your life. And then, I'm fortunate enough that I still play for NIAC in New York City. So, it's a bunch of former pro guys. We play competitive lacrosse. So it's like you said, it's a good outlet to get those competitive juices flowing, a bunch of washed up guys still trying to sling the pill around. And even like you guys said, when I was doing, practice squad for the Cannon, some of my buddies would say to me, like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like wasting a Friday night to go to Harvard and, do walkthroughs with the team and stuff. It's like you guys said, that locker room, like, what's better than that? Like, what's better than, getting a chance to just suit up, bullshit, with your,
you can't explain it
with your buddies.
You have to be in it.
And yeah, and most of the games I was wearing a polo shirt, drinking pops in the owner's box before and at halftime. But I mean, what was better than that? I mean, I loved it. I mean, that's what I miss. Those, like you said, those are little intangible things like around the guys, around, just being there, not having to worry about anything else.
Yeah. Anybody you have to explain it to isn't worth explaining it to. I mean, it's because they're never going to get it, so it doesn't matter.
Last question we have for the week is: are you guys excited about the PLL documentary coming out, Fate of the Sport? And have either of you guys seen it yet?
Yeah, I talked to Paulie. Paulie texted me a few times. Like I think I'm in it a few times. We did a couple of interviews at the house, training in the garage and stuff. He said I made a couple cameos. I said, oh no. But he said it came out great. I'm proud of him, man. He put himself out there. Like I said, we're very close. And Greg is close with him too. He put himself out there, right? And it's a lot of shit that went into this that a lot of the little kids don't really understand. The grown men understand because it's sacrifice, it's financial, it's life-changing shit. And I think he put himself out there for the betterment of our sport and for us as pros.
Paul could have made a ton of money in endorsements, played in the MLL until he was too old to play, left as one of the greatest lacrosse players of all time, capitalized on that and made, reinvested that money into other projects and gone off and had just a great, quiet, awesome life. And he chose the hard path. And that's what I'm so impressed with Paul about is if, I'm pissed he didn't do it a few years earlier. But the fact, I mean, when you look at the difference between Major League Lacrosse, and I always say this, I will never take anything away from the MLL because I'm so grateful that it existed. And the PLL stands on the MLL's shoulders. It looked at what they did wrong, what they did right, etc. But when you look at the difference in how the PLL looks compared to the MLL, it's very, very stark. And Paul didn't have to do that. His brother didn't have to do that. They were both doing fine. So I give them a ton of credit. I haven't seen the documentary yet. I'm obviously going to watch it at some point. But the fact that ESPN picked it up, ESPN in general has been amazing for lacrosse the last couple of years, man. You look at the women's game, the U21 games were just on like now here. Like it's very, very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I'm pumped to see it as well. I think it comes out August 28th or 29th on ESPN. Really cool to see how it comes out. I know I've heard a lot of great things about it. And, you know, like everything you guys said, he is so passionate about bringing lacrosse to the level of other sports leagues and professional lacrosse athletes and players to be recognized as professional lacrosse players, and having everyone else see what has gone into it, I think is really special. And, you know, hats off to him for doing that, and definitely excited to watch that.
I think just a real quick, just so people understand, overnight, 150 players in the best players, 150 of them in the MLL signed to go to the PLL overnight, which is absolutely nuts. Guys who had guaranteed, they were on a team, they knew what they were doing in the summer, and they said, you know what, I'm just going to take a shot. And it would be like if LeBron did something. I guarantee you, whether they like him or they don't know if they like, guys would go and follow LeBron. Same exact thing here with Paul. If it was anybody else, I don't know if it would have worked, but it was Paul.
Yep.
Absolutely. So that wraps up our mailbag questions for the week. Those were 4 great questions. Like I said earlier, make sure you're sending them in. We'll read them. We'll get our interns to read them, and then the best ones will make it out, and you'll make it onto the show. Last segment for the week, we touched upon our MVP picks, what we thought about midway through the season, what we think now. We're going to touch upon our championship picks. For this week coming up, we're in Boston. We have the Whipsnakes got their bye. Chrome plays Chaos. Archers plays Redwoods. Atlas Water Dogs. Redwoods Archers, that I might have already said that I did. And then the Cannons are eliminated. So, with those matchups in Boston this week, who do we think is going to come home with the title? We have from our first show, our picks. Scotty, you had the Atlas, real homer pick. Greg, you had the Whips, probably smart money. I took the Chrome. Are we changing opinions? Scotty, we'll start with you. Who took the Atlas?
Yeah, I'm going to flip. I'm going to take the Whips, man. Just watching how they do business, man. It's like, you can't bet against them, dude. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not, until they prove me wrong, and they have not.
I'm not going to do it anymore. I will say this, Blaze really had me thinking Chaos now.
He's got a sales career.
But yeah,
until
proven otherwise, like I've been saying from day one of this podcast, the Whipsnakes are the top dog. I know the Chaos won last year, but since that game, and honestly, right before that game, it's been Whips. So I'm gonna continue to ride that train.
I'm sticking with my guns. I'm sticking Chrome. I've been the biggest Chrome fan all season long. I'll keep saying how fun they are to watch. Like we said, Blaze's interview has me worried. You know, they have the Chaos first round. The Chaos have experience, and with all due, the Chrome do not. I think it's going to be a must-watch game. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. But I'm sticking to my guns, staying with the Chrome.
These pick'ems next show are going to be. It's going to be bloody. It's going to get bloody out there, man.
I'm pumped. I mean, I'm bummed that we have a week off before the games, but it would be good to get the guys a rest, have them ready to rock for Boston in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, baby.
And with that, it wraps up another week of Rise Up, the podcast. Make sure, listeners, you subscribe to Apple, subscribe to Spotify, whichever your preference is to listen. If you want to watch us chop it up in person, go on to TorchPro's YouTube channel, subscribe there. Fellas, another great week in the books.
That was our best one yet, boys. Loved it.
Keep getting better to the moon.
I got to get back to my Madden League draft. Shout out to the Justice League. Coach Garnsey said if he wins the Super Bowl, he gets to come on. So we'll have to see what happens there.
love nothing more than
Deal.
Barnesy coming on.
Awesome, fellas. All right, I'll catch you next week.